I'm so grateful for all the kind things that you have said for me. It's all your generosity and your kindness. And let me first make it very clear that I'm not alone. Somehow God has made me the nimitta too, but uh, I'm always with others. Togetherness is I. I really, I want to strongly and most humbly, I want to say that. So all these the good words, thank you for that. But also they are equally and perhaps more, uh, more deserved by my colleagues in Seva, colleagues in Vigo, and everywhere. And thank you so much for this jacket. It's so timely because the AC, I was already finding cool. So a friend in need is a what? Friend indeed, right? So my friend in Thailand thought of it, and thank you so much, all of you. Uh, so when I'll go home, I will show off that I'm, so I'm value added. You know, Ghar Khata has been a term, used by as a as a normal term for those who worked in homes. But they were not as such as category, but it was more meant to be on contract, farming out work, and that happened to be the women and in their homes. But it has a larger meaning as well. Like this beautiful one that I'm wearing is Ghar Khata. Actually, we have been wearing khadi, so my sari is Ghar Khata, hand spun, hand woven, dyed and designed in homes. So that is all that industry and all that work is being done in homes. And so there are men and women both, but more number of women. And I said both of them have remained invisible. So I think by, as by wearing a homemade thing, I'm making a public statement how I spend my money, so I care for those who have been working in their homes on piece rate. They are poor, they are women, they are informal, from the informal economy. So I think our next step is going to be how to educate our producers, how to educate our consumers, the market, changing the market. That kind of lead is needed, and so I'm not going to elaborate on that. When you talked about that when you met me first, and when I met you first, I would like to say that there was, a commission was set up in India on the on the status of women uh, self-employed and women in the informal sector, and that report. So I was chairing that commission, and the title of that report was Shrama Shakti. So while we were traveling in Bengal, in a place called Bankura, so we had visited, and those poor and women, self-employed, informal sector wale. So at that time, in this village, we happened to go to a home, and uh, she was a weaver. And when we asked her, uh, कि आपकी फरियाद क्या है? What is ailing you? What are your complaint? And she said, काज नाही, काज कोरी मरू. She said, I have no work. Actually, she was weaving, and she said that I have no work, and I am dying because of the grind of work. In the same sentence. So she herself also did not perceive herself as a worker. So all this, our movement has started from zero almost. How can you organize, or how can you take up a cause in name of home worker when the worker herself does not recognize herself as worker, particularly women? So it's really a time to celebrate our journey together of organizing, coming together and taking up the cause, and to a certain extent, improving the conditions of women. If I tell you about the journey, it's very exciting, at the same time very educative as well. In a way, when I see it, it's a spiritual journey, from where to where we have come. About Vigo, when we were at Geneva, so as Marty describes, so we wanted the stamp of Harvard. Harvard की छाप चाहिए. Not that during the first year of debate at ILO, we didn't have statistics, we didn't have figures. We had, but nobody would believe me. So in fact, we were ridiculed. But so I said that we must have statistics that people should believe, particularly the employers and the governments, but mostly employers. So when we were having morning breakfast on the footpath of a restaurant, and I said that somehow for the next year we want a Harvard stamp wala statistics. And so Marty and Jennifer, so they did it. And the next year, there was no way, there was no complaint. We realized that, statistics has power, and when statistics comes from our side, then, people don't know that informal sector. So even today, whenever we say that 93% or 94% in India, workforce is the informal sector workers, then they say, really? And that now that we have, by organizing, Vigo, Seva, and we all have the credibility. So when the statistics comes from our mouth, that really makes an impact. And so it becomes educative to others. So I think that Vigo's WIGO's efforts for improving statistics and creating new, so enlightening new facts and figures, I think that's a very, very important activity. Right from the beginning, I have felt that. Because we unions and we NGOs and organizations, our organizations can't do it. But when they do it, when academics wale, do it, then it has to be believed. And also it is more important because I hear, I may be wrong, but I hear that now, different statistics at the national level are being played upon. And they have not remained as truthful as, they were before. So maybe there may be, say, difference of opinion or of definitions. But now somewhere it has started, losing its credibility, its truthfulness. So in that, so in this coming time, I think statistics coming from WIGO will be who carries such a high credibility. I think it's a very important activity. So I still have not changed my mind. What I have learned from WIGO, many things from its statements, its reports. But that one sentence, so wherever I write or speak, it really, really makes an impact. And that is, Marty, that is that the link between poverty and growth is informal sector. It's so true, and then you build up on that. So people either know, people know somewhat about poverty and somewhat about the informal sector. But the real employment and growth of employment and the real economic growth lies when they both are going to meet together and have work together and come out with the necessary change and policy. So I think we will be, keep on working on that. And, lastly, what I feel, as such, I am old and I also sometimes feel old. But today I feel new also. And I see that link. But can't help saying that the times are really changing. I maybe also I can see it, rather more scaringly, but from your side it may be less. But when we talk of homework, but before that, the world of work has changed and has been changing so rapidly. And developing countries somehow have been thinking, including our country, that by sort of copying or that by by industrializing, we will be able to have higher growth, and we will have more jobs. And with globalization, actually what we see is the opposite is happening. Our people, that is in farmer sector, is growing. At the same time, they are becoming more and more vulnerable than before. And as we know that corporate power is is increasing. Technological changes also demand new skills. So at the same time, a very large number of have started feeling hopeless and lost. And the power of the middle class is increasing with all its middle class values, so which are mostly very selfish. And earlier it was that poor, so always dependent more or less on the poor. That government will do something for us. They knew that government is inefficient, the government is corrupt, but still they knew that government will do something for the poor. But no more. Now, now the poor and the informal and the working poor have lost faith in the government as well, because they have become allies with the corporates. So in that way, state's role in support of the poor has declined, or which is almost nil. Also, the decision making has become, is going, is happening more at the global level, which we don't know. So often, most often, that all those decisions that are taken at the global level, which we hardly know or come to know about at a very late stage. So we feel that international organizing has become a necessity, and including home-based workers and then women. Also the trade union movement also has to change. The same typical type of trade unions are not going to see a better day. No, I don't think. The government believes, and then most of the businesses believe that by relaxing, what they mean is weakening. So by relaxing social protection and then workers' rights or labor laws, that will attract more investment and create jobs. This is a big question for the trade union movement. So do we mean to industrialize and so-called develop our country at the cost of the workers and other workers and employees? Is it ever possible? And is this how we create more and more inequality? The challenge is how the labor takes a lead, and in this sense, I mean the labor in the informal sector. That is the working poor. How do they? And I can only see that it is only the women in the informal sector who are going to take the lead to change. It is only the women who can think holistically and deal with the industry in a broader perspective. And that is what WIGO is doing. And I think that is the path. How how do we broaden uh, workers or say industry? So broaden to, or rather, outreach to all kinds of workers. I have always felt that this formal and informal sector, formal and informal, this is a false divide. It's only the women in the informal sector will be able to bridge this gap. And we want a different society. This society, the times that we are living in, I'm sure that, these are not, worth living, the kind of times we are going through. So we have to bring the change. And that change, the vision of that change is with women who are working, and women who are not necessarily poor, but who have gone through the basic industries like agriculture, like craft, like service sector, small businesses. So it is these women and men who will have to organize, come together, and bring the change. So I think the challenge is that how we can bring a broader perspective and bring capital, management, labor as partners. Same thing what Gandhiji said, the principle of trusteeship. How we become trustees? How do we understand that we are only trustees? Capitalists are the trustees of their capital. Management, professionals are only trustees of their management skill, knowledge. Labor also is a trustee. Ultimately, all of us are ultimately responsible to the society. We are trusted to the society. So, where we all have found, all of us who are sitting here, that organizing is the first and foremost step. How do we organize, build up networks, work beyond different sectors, and come together and organize and build up our collective strength based on values, not like a crowd, but organize and build up our collective strength with values of truth and non-violence, peace. So that is how I see the future of WeGo. Stories, I have so many, and Hawa Bibi, and same Hawa, which has not changed, rather worsened. Why Hawa Bibi is mentioned so often? Because in Pachan, she was a bidi worker. She was rolling bidi all her life. And then one day, the contractor said that, stop giving her work. So she said that I have been rolling bidis for last, my 3 generations. Same thing like street vendors. They've been there for last 3 generations, and then suddenly just say that no more, you will not be given work. So nobody cares for them, or nobody cares for the for the work that they are doing, or the what the contribution they are doing to the national income, contribution to the GDP, to the nation building. And that's that is the biggest injustice in this world, that one who works for 10 hours a day and still not considered, recognized as a worker or as a work. So I think our struggle is going to go on, and we will organize still better and build up, more allies, and then go ahead with God's blessings. Thank you very much.